خلاص تعال دافع عن أرضك ووطنك.
Be killed and injured in 17 terrorist blasts in Baghdad. The Egyptian General Prosecutor orders the imprisonment of 72 pro-Morsi people accused of committing acts of violence and terrorism. Resignation of a Libyan minister and another official resign as a result of the deteriorating security situation across the country. Good afternoon, this is News English from Syrian Television in Damascus. Syrian Army units restored complete security and stability to the quarter of Al-Khalediya, killing and wounding many terrorists in various areas. They also confronted and repulsed a terrorist attempt to attack the National Hospital in Televisión in Hom's countryside. The army defeated the last terrorist group in their hideout and defused dozens of explosive devices which they planted in houses and highways. Units of our army also clashed with terrorist groups in other areas, killing and wounding several of them. In Iraq, the number of the victims of terrorist explosions in booby-trapped cars in Baghdad and other areas rose to 55 dead and more than 200 wounded.
Iraq witnessed a bloody terrorist escalation that targeted innocent civilians in several crowded quarters and markets, leaving great damage and much blood everywhere. There were 8 booby-trapped cars that exploded in various areas. 2 of them exploded in Al-Qud town to the south of Baghdad, killing 10 people. Al-Muhammadiyah witnessed another explosion that claimed the lives of 4 people. The other explosions hit a number of quarters inside Baghdad. There were other explosions in Basra and Al-Samawa. These explosions carried the fingerprints of Al-Qaeda, which suffered a great defeat at the hands of the Iraqi security forces in several areas against this terrorist organization. The Iraqi people have never seen security or stability after the exit of the American forces. Iraq became one of the largest terrorist havens in the world, supported by the old chiefdoms in order to dismember this region and divide it into conflicting cantons to serve the Zionist American agenda.
Yesterday, the Iraqi army cleared areas of Al-Muqdadiyya and Salmanbek of terrorists and restored stability to these areas. They also killed 6 terrorists on the Syrian-Iraqi border and detained several others. Moving to Palestine, the People's Committee for the Defense of Syria in occupied Palestinian territories held an evening of solidarity with Syria against the aggressive war that targets its security and stability and which aims to weaken its resistance of the Zionist American schemes in this region. The General Judiciary Authority in Egypt ordered the detention of 72 of the supporters of the deposed President Mohamed Morsi, who joined a sit-in in the square of Rabia al-Adawiyya, charging them with murder acts of terrorism in addition to possession of weapons and explosives.
Egyptian soldiers were killed and 70 others wounded in terrorist acts in Sinai. The acts of terrorists exceeded peaceful protests and expression of opinion. The state is now forced to take firm and strong measures to stop any breaking of the law. That's why the Egyptian Residential Office gave a strong warning to the Muslim Brotherhoods to stop their terrorist acts and to end the sit-in in Rabi al-Adawiya. However, the Muslim Brothers didn't listen to these warnings. The presidential office gave orders to detain 72 suspects of the supporters of Mohammed Morsi. They were accused of terrorizing citizens, arson and acts of bandits. The detained suspects included a leader of an Islamic party. Helicopters threw leaflets at the sit-in in Rabi al-Adawiya calling for stopping the acts of terrorism and chaos in public places. Supporters of Morsi attacked more than 8 inspection points in Al-Arish, Sheikh Zuwaid and Rafah in Sinai using various light and heavy weapons, machine guns, RPGs and a long-range American-made missile fired against the building of the Directorate of Security in northern Sinai.
In Libya, Kamila Khamis al-Mazini, Minister of Social Affairs, announced her resignation from the interim government following the 2 bombings in Benghazi. 267 blasts ripped through Benghazi, targeting the headquarters of public prosecution and court and prosecution complex and the Attorney General office north of the city, killing 43 people and inflicting heavy material damages. In Tunisia, the political crisis continued as Minister of Culture Mahdi Mabrouk asserted that dissolving the government was not improbable, while demands for such measures escalated. The first consultant in the temporary presidential office, Al-Hadi ibn Abbas, resigned from the leadership of the Conference Party, to which the temporary president, Al-Munsaf al-Marzouqi, belongs. At the same time, the official spokesperson of Al-Takatul Party, Muhammad Bandour, considered it probable to see the resignation of Mustafa bin Ja'far, chairman of the National Council. The opposition called for the resignation of the government led by Al-Nahda movement. The United States is suffering from a dangerous social gap and a great deal of disparity in income, as the rich become richer while the poor become poorer.
According to economic statistics, the American capital is owned only by 7% of the people who represent the rich class and possess 63% of the public wealth. The statistics also showed that 80% of the Americans are rapidly approaching the edge of poverty while the economic situation continues to deteriorate. According to figures reported by Associated Press, 4 out of every 5 people in the U.S. are suffering from the crisis of unemployment. The widening gap between the rich and the poor led to the spread of the phenomena of displacement and poverty in spite of the pledges of the American President Obama to renew the focus on the economy since the start of his first term in office.
Serious social gap in the United States of America. This became the general situation in the American society, with rich people getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Moving to more local news, ballet is the oldest and the most prestigious type of European dancing, and in Syria, ballet school is 25 years old. During this period, many dancers graduated from the ballet school, who participated in several international and local festivals.
Under the patronage of the Culture Ministry, the Syrian Ballet School has been separated from the High Institution for Dancing and Music, giving the school full independence and the ability to enlarge and develop several experiences. The school has ballet teachers who have graduated from the most prominent international Russian and French ballet schools, as well as an orchestra specialized with special ballet symphonies such as the Swan Lake. What gives the school its importance is the new generation who continue their practices with full energy and hope in the future, and gaining good results to the Syrian ballet schools on both Arab and international levels.
And with that saying, we come to the end of our news for today. For more details, you can visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Stay with us after the break, the latest in the world of finance in our economic news.
Good afternoon. The Minister of Industry asserted that the Ministerial Committee put the priorities to activate the industrial sector after the crisis, as the priorities include establishing a financial fund to rehabilitate the sector. The fund works by two systems, the compensation and the loans, in addition to adopt the participation principle of the reconstruction, as 60% of the investment budget of the government are routed in order to participate with the private sector, in addition to granting exemptions from the taxes and the fees for the industrialists to enable them to establish their own projects, especially the agro-industrial ones. The prices of the U.S. crude oil fell for a second day, extending the first weekly drop in more than a month. Futures slid 0.6% after losing 3.1% last week. U.S. stocks rose with the Standard & Poor's 500 index erasing losses in the final 30 minutes of trading, as investors weighed corporate earnings and consumer confidence before central bank meetings next week. European stocks also advanced for the first time in 3 days, while Japan's shares fell, with the Topix index capping the biggest two-day loss in 2 months. The Jewelers Assembly set the price of 21-carat gold at 7,500 Syrian pounds per gram, declining 1,000 Syrian pounds since yesterday, while the Rashadi golden coin was set at 56,000 Syrian pounds and the English coin was set at 61,500 Syrian pounds. The dollar dropped to a one-month low versus Japan's currency before a private report forecast to show sales of previously owned the U.S. The yen rose for a third day after Japanese retail sales fell and Chinese industrial companies reported slowing profits, boosting demand for haven assets. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.